I don't know how others do it because, well, I'm not trying to be like others. Oh my God, do I have to pee? I think I'm just nervous. Okay, I think that it is just time to share. And maybe I should bring this over here because I'm not like, okay, I'm gonna be honest. Like I have a little stuff, I have some things written out but I'll ramble. Like I'll speak authentically. And when I wrote this, I actually was speaking authentically as I was writing it. I was actually over at my counter and I look up at the time and I was like, I was getting into it. I was literally crying and I was like, wait a damn minute. I need to just record this part. So the part that I'm like kind of like reading off of here and sharing with you is just something that it's like, I just want to get my point across as to what this podcast is and why. And I don't want it to feel too cheesy and I just want it to feel real, but at the same time, I stumble over my words. My brain moves faster than my mouth. Like I struggle getting words out and I just kind of want to come off articulate in the beginning. And then you'll just like, oops, then you'll really just like know, you'll just really get to know me over the weeks on end. Hi, I'm Mads, and for the next 30-ish minutes, give or take, I'll be the bestie that makes you feel better about your life choices one way or another. I'm going to be the voice that helps you feel just like a little bit lighter, hopefully, because at the end of the day, it's not that deep. Let's get the fuck into it. So I realize that everybody is starting a podcast, has a podcast, wants to start a podcast, or hates podcasts. To be real, this podcast got way too fucking deep before it even started that I chickened out, and I've been wanting to do this for 2 years, this podcast. So a little background with a girl behind the microphone. I started a business 6 years ago at the age of 22 on a hope and a fucking dream. Like I seriously mean I had a hope and dream. I didn't have money. I didn't even have a business plan. I had a hope and a dream. And I moved from a small town in Indiana to Colorado at the end of 2018. And in 2019, that's when I started my business. So I currently rent a small salon suite in Denver, Colorado, and I specialize in hair extensions and lived in hair color. So baseline, I'm a hairstylist. Like I'm just your average hairstylist. And the reason that I'm sharing this is because I'm now 28. And at 22, I had no fears of starting a business. Like I had no fears of starting a business. I was like, here is my, honestly, I didn't even have the money. My mother loaned me my first month's rent check. And she says, no, I know you'll pay me back. Here it is. And she's the one that started my dream. And sure as shit did, I paid her back right away. But I had no fears. And for some fucking reason, I cannot push myself past this fear of starting this podcast. It hit me the other day. I was hanging out with my friend who was telling me how they're so proud of me for starting a business so young and the business being successful. And like my response, I took a second and I was like, this is going to come off very cocky or I don't know, maybe naive. I said, I never doubted that my business wouldn't be successful. I wouldn't have even started my business if I thought that I would have failed. Like I had no doubt that when starting my business, it wasn't not going to take off. I only knew it was going to take time. So I knew that I was going to have to work triple the amount of hours because I am putting myself into more debt to then get out of debt and live a life that, you know, you're kind of currently looking at. I just didn't doubt myself. And the reason I didn't doubt myself is because I knew in my bones, I knew that I was meant to be an entrepreneur. I knew that. And I also had so much passion for hair that I also was like the worst, and I mean the worst case scenario, is that I end up only signing for this lease for a year. And it was actually a month to month. It was a month to month contract. So I was like, the worst case is that I end up hating ownership and I'm not cut out for being an entrepreneur and I end up working for a salon. Like it wasn't that deep. And I remember it so vividly. I was like, it was not a big deal. at all. And for some fucking reason, I'm letting the fear of what other people would think of me from starting this podcast. And I have told so many people about this podcast over the last couple years. Like, so many people know, even my random hookups know. Like, everybody knows about this podcast. And all the people that I've told, one, are like, it's a fucking great idea, I would listen in a heartbeat. And two, can I be on it? And if you are listening and you're one of those people that are like, can I be on it, Mads? Send me a text message, because I'm going to write up a list of all my special guests. This podcast will, and I repeat, will not be for everyone's ears. One, I'm going to cuss a lot. So if you're not into cussing, profanity, all that, like, I'm sorry, this isn't the podcast for you. But two, it's going to be a podcast that evolves, that has structure yet chaos, that focuses on real life experiences from myself to the guests I bring on the pod. It is a place where I can share things I've learned throughout the past 28 years, but more specifically, I will be focusing on topics that surround the hair industry, entrepreneurship, therapy, relationships, self-growth, and probably a lot more. If none of that sounds like you give a shit to listen, then politely stop listening. Like, it doesn't hurt my feelings. If you're not interested, like, that's okay. But if you are staying around, I do want to say thank you. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this 30-ish minutes of a story that I'm going to be guessing, if you are listening, you've been waiting for this story. So I might as well start the first episode off with the reason I wanted to start the podcast in the first place, and the reason that the podcast got the name. It's not that deep. Today is February 12th, 2025. And February 12th of 2023, my ex-boyfriend told me that we need to be in an open relationship, or he doesn't want to be in the relationship. And I remember that moment so vividly, because I just got back from a trip that trip is a different episode. Some of you may know it. But I got back from a trip with a friend. I got in at 9-something o'clock at night. I was unpacking my suitcase. And there was a conversation where I was just curious. And I went to my first time ever going to a strip club, and I was sharing it with him. And then I just asked, I was like, hey, have you ever been to a strip club? Now, I wasn't asking in the whole year. I was just meaning in the time that we've been dating. And I don't know what felt, like, what the inclination, like, well, I don't know why I fucking asked it. Like, I don't know why I asked it, but I was curious. I was like, have you ever been to a strip club? And then he was like, well, yeah, Mads, like, I've been to a strip club. I'm like, I mean, like, while we've been dating. And in my core, I was like, no, he's not. Like, why? Like, he would have told me, because that's what I did. Like, I told him. And he goes, well, yeah, last month. And I was standing in the bathroom, and he was showering, and I was like, oh my fucking God. Like, he just lies to me. And then it escalated, and then he got out of the shower, and then he was standing, our closet was between the bedroom and the bathroom, and he was standing at the bathroom entrance to the closet, and I was unpacking my bag in the closet, and I'm looking at him, and it's just like one thing led to the other, and he's just like, I need open relationship, or this won't work. And I, like, when I say I didn't know what to do, because when somebody that you love so much, gave you an ultimatum, and honestly, at this rate, I'm like, a fucking ultimatum of marriage or not didn't sound too shabby, but he gave me an ultimatum of, I need to see other people in order for this relationship to work. And I just had to like either say yes and keep him, or I say no and I lose him. And whenever you're so in love, I realized in those moments I was not just in love, I was alone. I didn't have anybody to talk to. I didn't know what to do. It was pushing 11 o'clock at night. I had clients the next day, and I just felt like I died. I didn't know what life was without him, because he was the only reason that I was living, and I'm so ashamed to say it. Because I just loved him a lot. And he was the reason that I was always happy. I was dependent on him to make me happy, and it just was very unhealthy. There's a lot of truths to this relationship, and I know what you're thinking, Madison, like, you like leave him, duh. Or I'm gonna state this, like, whatever kind of relationship you have as a listener, like, I don't care. It does not affect me. I do not care. I support what makes you happy and what truly makes you happy, because I also said that I could do it and it wasn't making me happy. So I don't care what kind of, if you're in poly, if you're in open, if you are, in whatever you're into, monogamy, pop off, queens, kings, people. But for me, it was not what I wanted. And it wasn't as simple as I could just leave. We were very intertwined. So my ex and I dated for 4 years, and we dated during COVID, 2020. We dated fast. But for me, I was like, no, it's like pretty slow. Like, let me back up. I'm definitely nervous to share this, and I don't even know why I'm like sugarcoating it and like I'm like stalling, but I ended up dating my landlord, and he was also my boss at a different job that I had. And I fell in love, but like I fell in like that scary dependent relationship that I always swore myself I never needed and I never wanted. And yeah, my honest truth, I fell in love with him because we trauma bonded. And I'll get more into that because that's a term that gets floated around a lot, and I've worked a lot on terms like this over the last year, actually 2 years, to understand what I was in and to understand how the fuck to leave. So because I mixed business with pleasure, this was not an easy exit. I wish it was as easy as my first breakup where, we were just high school sweethearts and it just, it just wasn't working. Our goals in life and our dreams were different, and I could just, break up and go home, and then I had all my friends, and then I moved and all these things started happening. But now I'm 28 and I put all my eggs in literally one person's basket, and I always told him, like, don't make a fool of me. But then at the end of the day, I was the one making a fool of myself. And that really sucks, but it is the truth. I chose to stay. And from 2023, February of 2023, I was lost. I was confused. I was unsure. I also realized I had no friends. I lost a lot of my family. I had nobody to talk to but my clients. And then I said, fuck it, I need friends. And I started partying a lot, and I started going out a lot, and I started trying to live, and I numbed a lot. I live in Colorado, and I didn't realize, but I did realize I was numbing. What my day-to-day consisted of in 2023 from February to April, because I can tell you, no, from February to March, because I can tell you the day that I started to feel alive again. But I had to live with my ex for 6 weeks before I could move out of our apartment that we were living in together. And I will never, I feel like I don't know, growth, there will be growth. There will be things that I say on this podcast that I probably am like, I've learned and I've grown and stuff. But for right now in this moment, I will always have an exit plan, because I didn't have an exit plan. And now my ex he just never charged me for rent, which, like, again, any person that goes and starts dating somebody, you start marrying your shit together. And there was things that, like, it wasn't necessarily healthy what happened, but there were finances that got mixed, but not a lot. But my business was always my business. I never let him touch it. He wanted to, and I never let him. The only thing I let him and allowed for him to do was not charge me rent, which opened the door for me to get out of the debt that I got in before I met him, which ultimately was a manipulation tactic, but we'll get into that as well. But for the next 5 weeks, I think it was, I had to go home to this man who did not know what he wanted. He wanted to simply have his cake and eat it too, and I wanted to simply die. So that was my first time ever experiencing dark thoughts, where I started therapy, and it was actually, I walked in on it was only my second appointment. And I walked in and I said, Heather, are we allowed to talk about sex? Are we allowed to talk about open relationship? What are the parameters? And I'm bawling though. Like, I'm not sitting here saying it calmly. I'm hyperventilating because I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know how to get out, and I don't know who's going to help me. And I'm like, I think this is what your job is for, but I also don't know. Can you help me? And in that 5 weeks, I was learning so much. I was going weekly. I actually went twice a week for a little bit. And I was understanding that there needed to be boundaries in the relationship, and we didn't have any boundaries. And, like, his ideas, oh my God, his ideas. In the meantime, when he said that, I was like, I can't live here, and I know I can't. But then he was promising me things that, like, all I really want to do is have a threesome. And then I was like, okay. I was like, what does that look like? And for me, like, safety matters for me, like, massively. Like, if I don't feel safe with somebody, I will not have a pleasurable experience. And I didn't want to necessarily have a threesome. I didn't care to have one. God, how much do I want to out? Like, this is the thing. It was wild. I don't think I'm going to go truly into all of the sexual stuff because it is a lot, but he just kept changing. Sorry. City life. He just kept changing the rules to the game. And I just had to learn how to play the game. And I am so proud of myself, but I started talking and opening up to my clients about it because I was lost. And I'm surprised I even, like, going and doing hair wasn't saving me. I was, like, doing motions, and I was just like, I don't even give a fuck. And I ended up, having one of my clients, we went and got a beer together, and she started introducing me to things I've never heard of, to essentially like kinks and things like that. And I was just like, oh my God. So all night I'm researching about all these things. And I'm like, I think I slept. I don't think I slept at all the 5 weeks, but I took a lot of gummies. I depended on weed in order to not feel, and also to try to sleep. And it would get worse. It would always, right when I thought that that's the craziest thing he could ask of me, another crazy thing would come out of his fucking mouth. Not kidding you, I think my clients were coming even faster so that they could get more updates on appointments of my life rather than their actual hair needing to be done. And I was confused, and I was alone, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I always visioned a life with him. We talked about retirement. We talked about owning things like lake houses and going places, and it was all superficial and it was all surface. So like hindsight's 2020, but like I just believed the words you say, because why wouldn't you believe the person that you love when they say the words to you? You know, like why would I question it? Because then I'm like, but I don't want to question your trust. But then every fucking day I'm dealt a new rule and new cards, and I'm just like, how do I play the game? What am I doing? Why is it even a game? Like my heart and my mind should not be played with. And guys, this man is 46 years old. So we had a huge age gap. Again, I'm 28. Like there was a huge age gap to where I'm like, why? I thought that I was getting in with somebody that had their shit together. And at surface, yeah. But unfortunately, it's just not how it went. So in the meantime, I'm trying to figure out, am I leaving or am I not leaving? And I'm not going to lie. Again, I'm going to get into the relationship more heavily because it was 4 years, not 2. But the past 2 years was me trying to exit the relationship. So I'm not going to lie. I've been trying to break up with this man for 2 years. And I finally had a breaking point because he came home one day from work and it was late and I was going to go up to the hot tub. So I went up to the hot tub, and when I came down, he had Billie Eilish playing. He had the lights dimmed. He had like roses out, like these petals. And this man thought he was gonna get laid. He wanted sex. And we haven't even established, I don't even know what, we weren't even broken up, and he already downloaded Hinge because he had his employee download it for him and make a profile for him. There's a lot that I don't know if I can actually sit here and talk and unpack it all right now, but there was a lot of hurt. And I was very faithful and I was very loyal, and I was just trying to figure out who I can trust and how I can trust, because this information shared with one soul that's not his and mine, I knew it was going to be over. And I was just like, am I ready for it to be over? And when I came down from the hot tub and that's what he wanted, and I said, is this a joke? He goes, well, he's like, it's okay. Like, it's okay if you didn't want it. And I was like, you're joking, right? Like, we've been fighting all for the last 3 weeks, and you think that we're going to have sex. I have a TikTok on this one, actually. And I turned him down. I was like, no, I'm not having sex with you. Why would I have sex with you? I'm shattered. I'm hurt. And the one thing you're concerned about is sex? And I went into the bedroom, and I went on, and I actually went on an apartment finder, and had, it was called Smart City. Honestly, they're in Denver, and they're phenomenal. I love them. Vanessa was her name, and she was so great. But I was sitting there, and I turned on The Office, and I was high, and I just kept hearing he literally didn't even come into the bedroom. And it's like 10 o'clock. Didn't even come into the bedroom. Didn't even want to talk about it. Didn't want to even figure out what those are. He's just pissed because he didn't get laid. As if that was like my only job, which... And the whole night, and this is the night that I decided I have to get out. The whole night, I just kept hearing, I wish I had his phone, but I just kept hearing his phone go up and down. Like the lock screen, he had his sound on and he would always just lock and he would put it down. Up and down, up and down. And I'm like, I don't think anything hurt more than knowing that I didn't give you what you wanted and now you are punishing me by making it not discreet that you are messaging a woman. And he was. And it hurt. And it was on Snapchat. Mind you, he was 46. Like, he was Snapchatting. And, like, it's just, like, dehumanizing. Like, the only reason that I existed for you was because I was a body for you. And, like, in the other way around, I loved him for him. Like, none of the things that he actually could give me, because he never really gave me anything. I just loved his heart. I loved his brain. I loved how much he supported me when he wanted to support me. And I think that's when I was like, this isn't how it's supposed to be. And I went on Smart City and I found a girl, and I didn't even know how much I made. Like, honestly, like, I knew my numbers, but like, I just never had to worry about it. I never had a plan. I never had, like, he made me feel so safe. Like, I just didn't, like, I always wanted to hire a financial advisor, and he was like, don't waste your money on that. Like, there were just little things that just, like, power, control. And whether he knew it or not, because I'm now learning that, but I reached out and I did my own thing, which is what I went with my gut, and I was like, the only way that I can find some sort of clarity is if I have my own place, if I can find a place that I can call home and feel safe. Because now, since I mixed business and pleasure and I decided to date my landlord, my salon is no longer my safe place. And my home's no longer my safe place. So I didn't have anywhere to feel safe. And I believe it was March 14th of 2023, I moved into the apartment you're looking at. Or if you aren't looking, it's downtown Denver. And I got my dream apartment. And I was scared shitless to sign. I backed out once. And then I was like, no, this is me. I need to believe in myself. It's just a fear tactic not a fear tactic, but 4 years, not that point, it was 3 years of hearing certain things. I didn't believe in myself anymore. And so this apartment was my dream apartment. Like, this is the apartment. This is my Cameron Diaz life. Like, this was where I knew I would flourish. So I decided, I signed my lease. And I think one of the hardest things I've ever had to do was say goodbye. So my ex, he traveled for work, and it was the one and only time that I've had a panic attack. Luckily, I don't have panic attacks, and I know I have a lot of clients, and we've discussed a lot of things, and I just didn't know what it was at the time. But it was the last night that we were sleeping in the same room together, in the same bed together. And after that moment, we're broken up. Like, our story's done. Like, there's no going back, and I knew there was never going back. Even though I went back, I just always knew, like, that was the last day ever that he was truly mine. Even though he was fooling around, like, that was the last day where I was like, this is the last time I'll ever know you fully. And it was hell. I couldn't even touch him. I couldn't physically laying beside him. Does that mean where I'm at right now? Oof. I couldn't breathe. I literally had to sit up. I couldn't breathe. And I didn't know what I was feeling at the time. And I just went to the bathroom, and I like laid on the ground, and I was like, I was hyperventilating. I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't stop crying. And then I was like, okay, think of things that like make you happy and like calm you. So I thought of beaches and I thought of dogs. Those were the two things that could only come to mind, and that was the only way that I could stop the tears from happening, and I could actually like fall asleep. And the next day I was still living at the place. I still had a few days, like he was gone for a week. So I had a week to pack up my shit, which, yeah, so that was the hardest day of my life, except the next day, it was like he didn't even give a fuck. Like I think that's why it was so much harder, was because I knew how much I just felt like a little kid, that I just felt like I was being too much. I was so dramatic, and like I felt silly for loving this man so much, and he's over here barely touching me, barely comforting me. Like, I think he rubbed my back maybe. And the next day he was flying out, and he was leaving in the morning, and it's as eerily as close as how Brie Chicken Fry and Zach Bryan, how she like asked him like for a kiss before he left. I had to do the literal same. I was like, are we not gonna hug or kiss goodbye? Like, the next time you come back, I'm moved out. You're coming back to not me, and you're just gonna leave without giving me a hug or a kiss? And then he did, and I was like, this was like this, okay. Yeah, he just walked out the door. He's like, I gotta go. And I'm like, okay. And he never checked in on me. I packed up that house alone. I cried so much. And the hardest thing is that I by my own choice, I only asked 2 friends, and I love them so much. Honestly, shout out Cassandra and Kelly. But I only asked those 2 to show up because I could not have anybody else witness. I guess maybe that sad. But the day I moved out, literally the day I moved out, Cassandra and Kelly helped me, and I did not cry at all. When I entered my home, that if you're looking at it or if you're listening, I'm sitting on the floor. I have made it so cozy. I sold everything to be with that man. I literally gave up everything in my life to be with that man. I didn't even have a mattress. I had to start from scratch. I had literally nothing but a kitchen because he didn't eat. So I was a little strategic in my relationship where I did buy cute stuff in the kitchen because I had extra money, and I was just like, might as well. And so my kitchen was the only thing that was really put together. Everything else, I had nothing. I had outdoor furniture, and went mattress shopping actually with my sister, and I bought a mattress, and I was like, can you deliver it on this day, which was the day that I moved in, and everything went really smoothly. And my mattress was on the floor for like probably 2 months, and I didn't have a couch for probably a month and some change, and I just was like, okay, we're starting over. At 26, we're starting over, and we're gonna do it, and we're gonna be fine. And I just knew that it would be fine. I was like, this is gonna be good. But the thing about my ex is, again, he was my landlord and still is my landlord. So it's not like I just could block him, and it's not like I could just say, adios, muchacho. I literally had to still see him, because I also worked for him with the rooftop venue as well, and I wasn't ready to give up everything. Like, he took the relationship and the love away from me, but I I couldn't let him win everything at once, because I honestly thought I would go 6 feet under. Like, I thought that I was like, might as well start digging, because I don't know if I can handle losing everything I worked so hard for, and everything that meant so much to me for the past 3 years just go away. All because this man wants to have the okay to cheat. It's essentially what it is. Because I promise you this, to the open relationship listeners out there, I know that there can be, and it can be successful, and that there can be healthy boundaries around it. I know it can work for people, and I think that that's amazing. This man is a disgrace to that community. This man needs to stay single for the rest of his life or find therapy. He does not get the title of open relationship, and he doesn't get to wear it honorably. It really is a disgrace to people that are in open relationships. So I think since we're at 42 minutes pushing, I think where I want to end this episode at is I am 4 months clean from him. I went no contact October 4th of 2024. And because he is still my landlord, there were still some ties that we had together. And October 4th, I decided to write a list of my exit strategy. And you guys don't even realize how hard it was. And actually, some of you will. Like, some of you have dated somebody like this. So, like, the ones that can relate, you know how hard, and the ones that can't, it's okay that you cannot. But what it's like, if you cannot relate, is he was like a drug. He was something that I turned to when I felt uncertainty and I needed to feel safe. He was somebody I turned to when I didn't believe in myself. He used everything that I learned in therapy as a manipulation tactic to keep me, and it worked. Whether he knew it or not, he was very smart on how to keep me around, because with me, he wins. He gets everything he wants and more if I'm in his equation. There was a TikTok that I saw, and it was, this person just had their fingers intertwined through my brain, and that's how I felt. He was just always in my fucking head, and I couldn't get it out. I couldn't not think about if I was like not touching him, not kissing him, not having him, like the possessiveness. Like, I was like, I just needed it. I craved it. I wasn't good. And I'll get into like the steps that I've taken to get out of that, I think, next episode. But I am happily 4 months clean from this man. And I've had temptations. He has not changed. And I am changing. And I'm proud of all of those changes. So that's kind of where I want to end the podcast, is that I'm going to break down. It'll probably take since it's February, I was thinking the month of, relationships and love, and it's all beautiful and fun. I was thinking that I'll take this month to really kind of dissect the relationship, the crazy, crazy shit that was asked of me, the things that I did to get out of it, things that I'm proud of, things that I'm not proud of, and where I'm at today, right? Like, where am I going? What am I thinking? I mean, I'm still at the business that he owns. So, like, I'm excited to share all of this with you. But I want to end, I'm kind of like, now I'm getting, okay, focus, Mads. I am now second guessing that you guys are pissed that I'm leaving you on a cliffhanger. And I also am second guessing, like, even if this was interesting at all. So let me know if you guys enjoyed this, or like, this was something that I know a lot of you guys have been waiting for. And then if you're new to listening to this, you had no idea what was happening. And so this is just the beginning of it all. In 2023, my ex asked me for an open relationship, and he was also my landlord, and I didn't know what to do. And so essentially what I'm going to end on is, I was somebody who became complacent in a relationship, who was manipulated, who dated, he is a narcissist. And that's familiar to me, because my ex's love is very conditional. And that is the type of love that I was taught and that I saw, and that it just comes with conditions. And I also, so that's what I fell for. I thought that was something that was good. And luckily, I was also taught to love unconditionally and accept people for who they are, and give grace and be gentle and kind. And one thing that I'm very, very, very proud of is that, yes, this is a very intense episode on a relationship that went south, but I want to say one thing. I know how I love. I know that my love is so beautiful when received, and I know what I can give in a relationship, and I'm just gonna now not give that away so easily. And I've been working on it for the last 4 months specifically. I do love unconditionally, but it is a little earned, and I am happy that I love that way, and I'm so happy. I don't not believe in love. I actually love love. I think it's a beautiful thing, which is why I think this hurts so much, because it was just a reality of something I never thought I would fall for. But I do believe in love, and I believe that I will obtain it again, and I believe that I will fall madly in love with someone again, but it will be something that I'm not falling for blindly. Like, I will be very aware of what I am falling for, and I can't wait for that day. But for now, I'm on a very big healing journey, and this podcast is a part of it. So if you're like, I don't even know why I listen to this podcast, well, welcome to the healing of Mads' heart. You listening, you're slightly healing my heart. So thank you for listening. With all of that being said, as deep as that was, and that was kind of just scratching the surface, I want you to know that the title to this show came about because at the end of the day, what my ex wanted and what I wanted in a relationship ultimately was two different things. We want different things. And yes, there is depth to the relationship, and there is hurt, and there is anger, and there is betrayal. But when you bring it back out and you just zoom out, it's not that deep. We were not right for each other. We wanted different things. And that is when I was like, I'm going to start a podcast called It's Not That Deep. So, thank you for listening to the first episode. And I hope you return for the second episode of It's Not That Deep. The truth to this podcast is that I did say it would be structured yet chaotic. Next episode, I think I'm going to dive into the relationship a little bit more and kind of get you caught up to speed. I don't want it to go past 3 episodes, mainly for my mental health. But if you have questions, comments, or just want to hear specific things, let me know in the comments. If you are, if you enjoy what you hear and you want to hear more, like, share, comment, reviews are great. And honestly, you guys are in for a journey with me. So let's be the OGs of It's Not That Deep and, see where we all evolve to. All right. I am exiting and I don't know how to exit. Maybe I just say goodbye. Do I Irish goodbye you? Okay, I'm leaving now. Have a good day. Goodbye.